guys, welcome back to Simply Fit. I'm Sandy White, the host of Simply Fit and your number one health and wellness cheerleader. Guys, we're on a mission to save 1 million lives by encouraging individuals to live a simply fit life through health and nutrition. And we do this simply by giving you all simple tips and strategies with nutrition and with health. And the reason we do this is so that you can overcome suicide and depression. And on today's segment, we have Dr. O'Neill on. He's the best-selling author, and he is a board-certified orthopedic surgeon and sports psychologist. And he's been doing this for well over 30 years. And he's going to be talking about his book, Survival of the Fit. But before we bring on Dr. O'Neill, I do want to, and I always do this, tell WYTV7 Community Broadcasters Network, thank you, and thank you for allowing Simply Fit to be on your platform, sharing the message of why it is important for people to be healthy and to live a simply fit life. And we always want to share not just our philosophy and what you can do, but this is why we bring on experts like Dr. O'Neill. So, we're not the only ones telling you how you can be fit, why you should be fit, but the importance of it as well. And so with that being said, we do want to bring Dr. O'Neill onto the show so that he can explain to you guys more of his philosophy and what he's been doing on his side. So welcome to the show, Dr. O'Neill. How are you?
Thank you, Sandy. I'm brilliant. Thank you.
So what have you been doing to, based off of what your credentials are, I shouldn't have started out with that. You are a very busy man. So let's share with the audience how you even got into the field that you're in, and then what sparked you to write the book.
Thank you. So quickly, what I found over the years, I spent a lot of my time as a sports medicine doctor and orthopedic surgeon trying to keep kids safe, and a lot of times trying to keep kids doing less than they were doing because they were beating up their bodies and running from one sport to the next and actually not getting enough downtime. But over the years, and I've been doing this now over 30 years, what we saw is little by little kids were not doing too much, not doing too many sports or too many activities, but actually doing less and less. And that started with iPhones and video games and ultra processed foods as all being part of that process. So watching this from a front line and seeing kids that were not going out in the woods and exploring and kids that were getting more and more unhealthy and the obesity crisis getting worse and worse, I decided that I had to do something about it and put in my 2 cents and what I felt could be a solution to this.
That's awesome. So let me ask you this before I jump into some more questions. You wouldn't happen to have your book there, would you?
I don't have a copy of my book, but it's Survival of the Fit, and it's published by the Teachers College Press at Columbia University. So it just came out this year, and it brings the reader down a path of explaining how we got into this situation, but more importantly, how we can get out of this situation with very little money and effort on our parts, but simply letting Mother Nature do her thing. And that's what my book is based on.
So before we get into the nuts and bolts of how we can fix things, let's work backwards a little bit. So we know with the iPhone, I got you. I got 2 boys, and that's the first thing they want to run to is the phones, the tablets, or whatever they have on the television, and they'll sit there for hours. And I heard, and you can correct me if I'm incorrect. When the pandemic first started, kids started getting a lot of blood clots, and I heard of only one. Because I know with blood clots, if you don't correct them immediately, you can pass away. And that was from being sedimentary. So we know that moving helps with your brain and, make sure your internal organs and all of that works naturally and perfectly. But what are, outside of the problems that we've already mentioned, what can people do right now? What are some things that they can do right now to be more active? The children, because sometimes they're looking at the mom and dad, and they're like, "Well, you sitting on the couch and eating potato chips." And what can they do right now that we can suggest to them where they won't, be finger pointing?
Yeah, well, first of all, what you said, I don't think is entirely true. You make the point that exercise is good for the brain, but I don't think everybody understands that. That not only are we exercising, and again, I don't even mean to say exercise, but not only are we moving for all the other organs you talked about, but but I don't think everybody understands that your brain needs this exercise also. That whole mind-body connection that we've talked about is really part of health of the brain. So when we are stimulating our legs and our arms to move, we're also stimulating our brains. So we can't have fitness, we can't have excuse me, we can't have intellectual and academic achievement without our bodies being fit. So that's for sure number one. To answer your question, I think that, and it's not an easy solution, but the biggest thing we can do as parents is to turn off the television and to turn off the computers and to make downtime, a certain amount of time every day, time away from the two-dimensional entertainment, and kids will naturally gravitate outside. And my belief is that as brilliant as these video games and as brilliant as so much of the online entertainment is, Mother Nature is going to win every time if we give the kids a chance. And even in the cities, there's enough nature out there and there's enough stimulation out there for kids to be much more interested in that as opposed to interested in video games.
Yeah, I agree. And people think that we were weird because we don't have televisions in any of the bedrooms. We have no intention of doing it. And then during the school week, well, the school year, during Monday through Friday, there is no television time. I don't care what's going on because I look at it as fact that if there's an emergency, you're going to get 4 or 5 calls on your cell phone, and you'll know to turn the television on. And then on the weekends, they only get like 3 hours. So some people think that's like really foreign, but I love the concept that you're bringing to the table, and which takes me to this next question: how you're tying fitness and obesity together. And then in Survival of the Fit, you explain how we can use existing tools and knowledges and infrastructure to make needed changes that are immediate right now. So explain to them what all of that is supposed to be and how they can just make this real easy for their life.
So to backtrack a little bit, kids are born with what I call a physical identity. So they come out of the womb, and what are little babies doing and what are our toddlers doing? They're crawling around and they're putting things in their mouths and they're grabbing at the puppy dog's tail, and they're just naturally inquisitive, naturally active. That is our natural state. And if you look at any animal, and I talk about even octopus, obviously bears and dogs, any young animal, this is what they do. They're inquisitive. What happens to humans is that gets driven out of them. It gets driven out of them when we're told to sit still in school, but it gets driven out of them mostly by the television, by video games, by Facebook. And these companies, their job is to addict our children, and I use that word purposely, to addict our children to this screen time. If we do not addict them to screen time, they're going to want to go outside and explore nature because, again, that's their innate physical identity. So that's where we have to start. We have to start by not allowing our children to lose their physical identity. And what you do with the television is absolutely right. And there's tons of data to show if a child has a television in their room, they have more screen time, they have less academic achievement, they have more health problems. It's directly related. And the difference, I think, between, and I'm in my 60s, when I was a kid, the television studios, I don't think were thinking, we have to get Danny O'Neill addicted to the Dick Van Dyke Show or to the Mary Tyler Moore Show or whatever silly show there was, right? they were just trying to send up something so go to their advertising and buy Coca-Cola. But now the evil aspect that's bumped it up is the Mark Zuckerbergs of the world and the Steve Jobs of the world and the other people in charge of the video games. They realize that we can actually get these children addicted to these menus, to these screens, to these shows, and with the likes and making it part of their social life. And you're more popular if you do this or that. And it's really stepped it up. It's a lot like what the tobacco companies figured out. And I know Libby's down there in North Carolina, and the tobacco companies figured, if we put certain things in the tobacco, if we smooth it out a little bit, and this is where America took over from the European tobacco companies, because America figured out if we put some sugar in the tobacco, and that's really what goes in there, we can smooth it out, and now you're going to smoke more. So we figured out ways to addict humans to tobacco products, and we're figuring out ways to addict children to screen time. And it's horrible, but it's working because your listeners and your viewers and myself and most other people, we can't fight Mark Zuckerberg. He has billions and billions of dollars. He's hired thousands of people, and their job is to addict our children. And we're losing that battle. We can't let children lose their physical identity, because once they do, we've lost them.
Yeah. And before I get into the next question, I think you needed to be carded, because you said you're 60 something and you do not look that old.
It's a screen.
But I do agree with what you're saying, but I want you, and you've been touching on this next question, I want you to go a little bit more into, you have mentioned that a sedentary child isn't thinking to their full capacity, and it's hard for them to become a STEM genius. So go a little bit more into that area.
Right. So, as you've pointed out right at the beginning, brain health is connected to physical health. And we took time away from physical education in 2002 with No Child Left Behind. We took time away from physical education in most schools, and we gave it to English and math, in hoping that our English and math scores would improve. And that was what No Child Left Behind was all about. But it didn't work. And the reason it didn't work is they took the most important time in a child's day, and that time of being active, and now we expect them to learn more algebra or more geometry, and the kids just aren't capable of doing that because their brains are not healthy enough to work. Our children today, besides the horrors of COVID, our children today are dealing with diabetes and high blood pressure and high cholesterol and all these things that were adult diseases when I was a kid. No child had any of these problems, and the obesity is all a part of that. And when you hear about the COVID issues, so many of these children have obesity, have underlying health issues, asthma and diabetes. And so much of it is directly related to their fitness. What we need to give our children is more physical activity. And even though I don't like putting more things on our school systems because our teachers are already overworked and overstressed, especially now with the pandemic, but we do need, because we're fighting against Mark Zuckerberg, we have to make this a full societal press to get our kids moving. And that's why they need physical education. They need an active class every day, every kid, every year of school. Now, I can guarantee you, because no state has it, no state has mandated that every kid has to do physical education or some kind of activity. And again, I use the term physical education. I actually talk in the book how we have to rebrand it, because kids hear physical education and they roll their eyes, they don't like that. but we got to have a playtime in there where we really get their heart rates up and we really get them moving, because that's what stimulates the brain. Now they go into science class, now they go into English class, and now they're ready to learn. And it's really that simple.
And you know what? I love it that you make it, just non-scientific. So, hey guys, we're going to take a commercial break. And when we come back, we're going to get into the nuts and bolts of how we can take these ideas and bring them to fruition in your school system. All right, we'll be right back after this quick commercial break.
80% of women will develop a pelvic health condition at some point in their lives. There is relief. There is hope. The Pelvic Floor Store, your resource for personal health.
Hey guys, we are back and we've been talking with Dr. O'Neill, and we've been talking about his book, Survival of the Fit, and how we can help our children get beyond being obese and have a better brain. So with that being said, Dr. O'Neill, let's get into how or I should say, what is the state of the physical education in our schools? You've gone over that multiple times, but how far down the road have we gone, and how can we correct it?
Yeah, we've gone really far down the road. So in 1866 in California, 1866, they mandated 2 exercise periods a day for school children. 1866, how many of these kids in 1866 were driving their cars to school? How many of these kids were getting on the television at night? 1866, they realized that these kids need to burn energy, even though they were farm kids and they were, delivering newspapers and whatever. But they knew then California was ahead of the curve even back then. So we've gone really far down the road, because now if you look at schools, and I would ask your listeners and your viewers, see what's going on in your school, parents, because you will be shocked at how little physical education, how few gym classes your kids are getting. They're getting, if they get 2 a week, they're lucky. And then in that 2 a week classes, if they're moving for 15 minutes for the class, that's a lot. So we've really gone far down the road the wrong way. And of course, it's only become more important now, almost 200 years later, for our kids to be moving, because everything about their lives keeps them from moving, right? We have all these conveniences. And what I talk about in the book is the only thing we do in 2021 that we didn't do 50 years ago was pump our own gas. That's the only active thing we do. And even our jobs, when we graduate from high school, the jobs are not active the way they used to be. They're, I think the census just showed 83% of Americans are in urban environments. So we've got to have, if you would, artificial types of movement and exercise, because we're not going to get it naturally unless we're farmers. So what do? We have to have gym class. Excuse me, sorry. We have to have gym class. And what happens is with gym class is that the kids keep their physical identity. So if they're used to moving, they know every day I got to rev that heart. They're like any other Olympic athlete. Olympic athletes during the COVID, they were all complaining that, my training schedule is all changed because of COVID. I can't get to the gym. I can't get to the track. They're human beings, just like we're human beings. They just don't seem like human beings once they're in their sport. But the point is that we all need this. We have this innate primitive brain that says, I've got to get outside. I've got to get some fresh air. I've got to get moving. So if the kids don't get broken from that, and again, the people that are breaking our kids are the Facebooks and the McDonald's and these other things. Those are the things that are making our kids unhealthy. If we don't allow them to have as big of an influence as they do now, the kids are going to understand. And if we can get their kids through age 18, through high school, with their physical identity intact, then it's done. Then they're going to have physical identity and they're going to be healthy, active adults, probably forever. So
Yeah, we don't need any more. What people don't realize, companies are starting to realize this. When and it is discrimination, but it, there's no sensitive way to do this. Companies are now hiring people that are overweight because it costs them more money. And so then when they tell you to go lose weight, then you get offended when you already know that you are unhealthy and someone cares. A stranger is telling you this. So with that being said, how do we help make these changes or implement these changes without putting a bigger tax burden on our communities? Because what I see, before you answer that question, what I see is like my boys swim and they play soccer, so I make sure that I volunteer if I'm not, one of the moms getting the snacks because I see the snacks that other parents do. I like to do it because they know if they Miss White do it, she's gonna make us eat healthy. If I'm one of the coaches, you running. There is no, if you're on a sideline, you're doing some jumping jacks, squats, whatever. You're not just standing there. But how do we get people involved without putting a bigger tax burden on the community?
yeah, and you're absolutely right. When you tell somebody who's 35 to lose weight, we all know how that works. We all know how hard that is. It's really hard. So we've got to make sure our kids don't get obese in the first place. And the way we do that is again to not allow them to lose their physical identity. So the problem right now, and if you want to talk about offending people, I'm about to offend a lot of people right now. The problem right now is the money in our school district is going to school sports. 86% in the survey I did for the book, 86% of our dollars are going to school sports, and school sports is only involving, depending again on what school you're at, maybe 20%, at the most 50% of the kids. Yet a huge percentage of this money is going to school sports. What we have to do is take that money and put it into activities for every kid every day. And whatever money we have left over, then we can use for interscholastic sports or for travel teams or that sort of thing. What we should be doing with sports, with these travel teams, is it should be a community endeavor. And this way, if your child wants to do that, you have community sponsorship and they can do it that way. It should not be the job of the school to worry about college scholarships and making Olympic athletes and pro athletes. That's not our job. Our job is to educate these kids. And these kids are not getting educated because they're not healthy enough to get educated. So the way we get them healthy is to make sure they're moving every day. So we've got the money, we've got the knowledge, we have the facilities. It doesn't take anything, as you say, to get a kid doing some jumping jacks and moving. And but our system, talk about going down the wrong road with physical education. We've gone down the wrong road with our school sports. And as you see in Texas, the huge 25,000 person stadium for Friday night football games. And again, is this fun? Is it exciting? But I think it is, but that should be a community endeavor. It should not be put on our schools. Our schools are for every child. And if you look at the private schools, and we have one here in my town, kids are healthier at private schools. Why? Because private schools understand what you're talking about, good food at their cafeterias. You know that they have healthy, fresh food. And oh, by the way, the private kids get exercise every day. Why should we be doing that just with the private school kids or just with the kids that can afford that? It's just crazy. We have the money already in our school system. We just have to allocate it so it works for all the kids. And by the way, just like so many of the other things, the women get discriminated against also because there are fewer girls playing the sports than the boys. So we have the knowledge, we have the means. We just have to make it a priority. And we're not going to lose any football players or basketball players doing this. They're going to find their way. But all these other kids are not finding their way.
No, and the sad thing is, it's one of the things, as you said, they need that energy, that oxygen for their brain, because the kids are intelligent. It's just the way that things are structured, it's not allowing for them to just shine the way that they normally would. And even when we were at home, my youngest one, I'm a pusher. And I was like, you can do this. Just keep going, keep going. You're going to get a break. Keep going. And then we'll do. And he's like, Mommy, I can't. I need a break. And one of the teachers at their school, she does, and because she started noticing the kids were feeling, that blah, she would do the in-class yoga moves. Okay, so we're going to do in-class yoga moves for about 10, 15 minutes. And then we're going to jump back into doing, the assignment. And she found that they were much more receptive. So unfortunately, we are down to our last 5 minutes. So Dr. Neal, tell them how they can get to your website, get your book, and learn more. Oh, and if it's possible, the download link for the PE template, is that in the book that can be shared outside of the book, or they need to get the book?
Okay, so fantastic. First, I just want to comment on what you just said. Every teacher has to be part of the program, right? It's not just the PE teachers, the English teachers and the science teachers, the art teachers. Whenever you can get those kids outside, the music teachers, get them outside, get them moving. Absolutely. Thank you for making that point. Number two, yes, the links, if you go to survivalofthefit.net, so I think that's one word, survivalofthefit.net. That's my website, and we have all the links for the PE program for elementary, middle, and high school. The book is available at all the indie bookstore links, at Amazon, of course, Survival of the Fit. And get a copy of that book, put it on the principal's desk, put it on the superintendent's desk, and say, why are we not doing this in our school? Because our kids are not getting what they deserve to be getting. And this is easy. This is not, we don't have to buy a new computer system. We don't have to buy anything new. We have balls. We have a gym. We have a field. That's all we need. But we need the will, like you say, of all of the teachers and the lunch ladies and the custodians. Everybody, this is what we do. This is our school is in motion. So survivalofthefit.net, any book outlet, Survival of the Fit, email me. If you don't like something I said, let me know. Tell me how we can do this. But this is going to take a grassroots organization. We are introducing legislation in the New Hampshire House to try to get this, and it's going to go nowhere. I can tell you, it's not going to be put up because people are afraid. They're afraid to agitate for this kind of thing, but we're agitating for the majority of our children out there. So if the PTA and you write letters to the school board, the other thing that we have downloading at the website are letters. So you just have to download it, and then you can put in your information and your name or the teacher's name or whoever, and then just boom, and then send that off to your people. So we have this movement because really what this is about is a movement to get our children healthy. It's that simple.
Well, thank you, Dr. O'Neal. We appreciate you coming on to the show. Guys, we are done. Dr. O'Neal gave you guys some really good tips to get started on how we can help our kids be more healthy. I'm Sandy White, your #1 health and wellness cheerleader and the host of Simply Fit. We broadcast every Wednesday night at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on WYTV7 Community Broadcasters Network. And with that being said, make sure you check your time zone so you don't miss any of the segments. Thank you again, Dr. O'Neal. We appreciate all of the information that you shared with us about Survival of the Fit. You guys make sure you go to his website, survivalofthefit.net, to get the book.